What is up, guys? Just a Mechanic. Welcome back to another video. Today I have a very special spray gun review and teardown. We have the newest generation of phasers. This is the Sata X5500 phaser. Now, just for shits and giggles, I also have the previous generation phaser. This is the Sata 5000 BRP phaser. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at the newest generation first, and then go ahead and make some comparisons between the newest model and the older model, see what kind of differences they made. Now, when I was first asked if I wanted a Sata Phaser 5500 on my channel, I immediately said yes. There was no hesitation. Who wouldn't want the most luxurious and prestigious spray gun on their channel? Now, when I look at this gun, some thoughts just run through my head. Like, this is something straight out of like a Star Wars movie. Like, this is Darth Vader's spray gun if he was a painter, right? Just looking at this gun, it kind of just reminds me of that. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and tear down both of these spray guns and kind of just take a look at the differences between the two designs and from the previous generation to the newest generation. And we're going to go ahead and start off with the newest generation first and kind of see what makes this gun unique and some of the design changes later on in the video. So I gotta say, as soon as I pick up this spray gun, I immediately get reminded of the previous generation. The body is pretty similar, and honestly the weight is pretty similar as well. The newest generation phaser might be a tad bit lighter per se, maybe a little smaller, but honestly it wasn't enough to really tell if the weight was really that much of a difference there. The key notes to mention here, obviously we have a slotted handle, and we also have a single-sided trigger. Now, this is also from the previous generation phaser. Now, this spray gun is actually designed in cooperation with Porsche. So Porsche actually helped Sata design this spray gun. So at first glance, some people might look at this trigger and say, well, you know, that trigger looks like it could be a problem, right? Because it only has one pivot point here on the very top. Now, being that it is a single-sided trigger, you know, that's natural. Somebody might say, well, you know, it might make for a sloppy trigger. But if you notice here where I'm pointing at, it actually uses the needle as a secondary support for that single-sided trigger. And actually, when you take a look at how much movement the trigger has, it's very minimal. Probably less than some more conventional designed triggers that I have seen on the channel. So actually, the trigger just felt awesome. Also, the trigger pull was very short as well, something I'm not really used to. And what I liked about that is that it makes for a more natural grip on the spray gun while you're spraying. So that is something that I did like. Overall, I do like the black flat, or the flat black or matte black finish. Like, makes it look very, very sleek. Now, of course, we're going to look at the knobs, and as you can see, just as the previous generation, we only have a quarter turn knob. So basically, from 0 to fully wide open is only a quarter turn. That is basically on most of the Satas from the newer generation are going to have that style of knob. And also the pressure knob here on the back, also the same kind of concept. I think it's only about a quarter turn. It's either closed or wide open. So I do advise that you use a spray gun regulator to be able to monitor the pressure a little bit better. All right, so moving on to the front of the spray gun. Obviously, we're looking at the air cap, and as you can see on the 5500 RP, this is a 1.2 eye pattern. Now, you do have a couple different configurations when it comes to selecting your spray gun. Of course, you have an RP version, you have a HVLP version, then you also have the nozzle selection between an O and an eye. And this particular model is actually an eye model. So also, as you can see, that the handle is slotted. Now, what's the deal with that? I don't think it's just the design. I think it's also makes the gun a quite bit lighter as well. And I think it's just trying to save some weight, right? And as you can see here on top as well, same twist lock style for the cup. Not really much change there. You know, you're still going to be able to use the same kits that you already are using with your previous phaser or possibly your Sata 5000s. Again, like I said, just overall a very sleek, very prestigious, and very luxurious spray gun overall. And honestly, it just feels very natural in the hand. And that is probably one of my most favorite parts about the spray gun. Alright, so moving on, we're going to go ahead and grab both of these guns and start to do a little quick teardown with them. Now, like I said, there is really not much difference here externally from the newer generation to the older generation. Obviously, you're going to have some coating differences, obviously, but overall, the overall body size looks very similar. There's really not much different going on between the newest and the older generation of phasers. Now, obviously, like I said, we have the 5000 RP phaser, and then the newest one is going to be the 5500 RP phaser, right? And they claim to have the X nozzle technology, which is basically got introduced by the Satajet 5500 RP, and that basically shares the same characteristics with this phaser. Now, like I said, I put these guns side by side to kind of just give you an overall comparison and see if there is really any size difference there. But like I said, if there is any size difference, it's very minimal. When I pick up both of these guns, they just almost feel identical. So not too much difference there on the weight and size there. So we're gonna go ahead and start the teardown here. Take the air cap off, take the needle out, of course, and right away when I took out the nozzle for the fluid control, I noticed that there was some white lithium grease. Something I haven't really seen on too many spray guns. Typically they don't use white lithium grease. I'm not sure if that's just something a little bit more high-end or a little bit more exotic. Because this is a more prestigious spray gun, perhaps they're using better quality grease in order to protect that needle. And it does look like a white grease of some sort, possibly white lithium grease. I'm not 100% sure. But it does seem to be an improvement from those oils that you see in most of my spray gun videos. So obviously we're going to go ahead and take out the needle from the original phaser, and obviously this is used, so you do have a little bit of residual paint on the needle. But when I grab the newest needle and the older generation phaser needle, honestly they're pretty much identical. Obviously there is going to be some size difference because one is a 1.2 and the other is a 1.3, so just a slight difference as far as overall diameter, but like I said, pretty much similar design and same material. Now when you do talk about some of the higher end spray guns, the needles and most of the stainless steel parts that you find on these higher end guns are going to be 400 series. On the lower end spray guns, you're usually going to have 300 series, right? And those are typically the major differences between those higher end spray guns and the lower end. Now, one of the biggest difference that I began to notice when I started to do the teardown on these spray guns was the nozzle. The nozzle was obviously a key difference between these two. Now, when you look at the previous phaser, you can see that there's an incredible size difference here. And also, if you look, obviously, They did change the nozzle. As you could see on the previous generation, it kind of has like this dish shield. Now they claim that that kind of softens the spray pattern a little bit and reduces noise. Personally, I wasn't able to spray with the gun, so I couldn't really tell you if there was a that much of a noise difference, but it looks like they kind of got rid of that shield design. Also an improvement here on the newer generation. As you can see, there's quite a bit more holes on the newer generation versus the older generation, so obviously you're going to have a lot more flow of air going through that air cap. Now there might be a particular reason why they added those holes, and it could be because of the air cap design that they chose. They might need additional more air in order to fill up more of that paint throughout that spray pattern, because when you have an eye spray pattern, one of the key things that Sata likes to claim is that they have more paint and throughout the whole spray pattern and less fade out, right? Now, as you can see, another major difference between the older generation phaser and the newer generation phaser is the air distribution ring, or also known as like a diffuser ring. And these were plastic. All right, these were, I believe they're nylon or possibly Delrin, but overall, from what I've been told, when you try to remove these plastic diffuser rings or just air distribution rings, they tend to break. And what typically happens is, you know, when after use you want to clean this gun out thoroughly, well, it's kind of hard when you try to remove that plastic diffuser ring and it ends up breaking. Now, I think they actually improved the design with the newest generation. Obviously, you're not going to have that diffuser ring anymore. Now it seems that the diffuser ring is actually designed into the gun body, so that kind of benefits in a few different ways. For one, you don't have any more replaceable parts, so therefore less maintenance, easier to clean because now you don't have that diffuser ring there, and also it's going to help with longevity of the spray gun itself, because there's no more soft parts, or there's no parts that you really need to change. So therefore, if something were to go wrong, you're basically need to replace the gun at that point. But obviously the design here is for longevity and for day-to-day use. So I do see some benefit between the previous model and the newest model of phasers. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the air caps, and obviously we're going to have a somewhat of a design change here. Now, at first glance, you could see that they're pretty similar, but if you really take a look at where the location of the holes on the center are, you can really take a note that what makes the difference between an I and an O pattern. Now, obviously, the older generation is an O pattern on this air cap, and on the newer one, we have an I pattern. Now, if you take a look, these are the holes that I'm talking about, are the center ones here, right here. So in the I pattern, it looks like the holes are a little bit more, you know, kind of away from the center, whereas the O shape is going to have the holes a little bit more concentrated into the center. So that's what's going to give you a more concentrated shape, or an O shape, or it's more of an oval, to be honest with you, but this is what's going to concentrate that spray pattern more in the center. Now with an I pattern, obviously you're gonna those holes are going to be a little bit more separate, and that's what's going to help assist on getting that elongated, almost hot dog looking spray pattern, right? So, but overall, not too much difference here on the air cap. Pretty similar, obviously a little bit of color differences here and there, but overall pretty similar. Now, I have been told as well that you don't want to drop these air caps because they are made out of brass. Typically, they are very soft material, so once you drop these caps, they can get damaged fairly easy because they are a very soft material. So that is something to also consider. Alrighty guys, so that is my review and teardown of the newest generation of phaser and the comparison between the newest and the previous generation phaser. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I really want to thank Ashley for letting me borrow her spray guns. She holds these guns dear to her heart, so unfortunately I wasn't able to put any paint through them. To be honest, I wasn't even allowed to leave the living room without her frisking me to make sure I wasn't leaving with one of her spray guns. So really I want to thank her, because without her this video wouldn't have been possible. So anyway guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please give it a comment, a like, or a subscribe if you like this video. And as always, stay spraying. Bye.